in Spirit One.
Okay, it should be set. Just go there. You're already on custom live streaming.
It's still asking me to log in.
Okay, just go with what we've got. They're gonna record on there.
You said to do what, Kenya?
Just start. You can record on Zoom, right? I see the custom live streaming is already set up. So just let's start.
Cue me up in like 5-4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Uhuru! Uhuru! One Africa! One nation! Touch one! Touch up! You know, I ad-lib for apartment there. Welcome to our Sunday rallies. We are, if you're in St. Louis, please stop by. We are at 4101 West Florissant. We're on the corner of West Florissant and Alice. We're here every week, 3 to 5 p.m. And we also want to appreciate everyone who are streaming with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. Today, our Sunday rally theme is Celebrate Our African Martyrs. And we'll get a little bit into the history a little bit later. But for the Uhuru movement, February 21st has been marked African Martyrs Day. Thus, today being the 23rd is close to our rally. So we will commemorate that today. The International People's Democratic Uhuru movement was formed in 1991 in Chicago. The International People's Democratic Uhuru movement was formed for peace, bread, peace, and Black power. And we want all that in our lifetime. And you can also find out more information about the Impedum by going to the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement page, impedum.org. And you can also donate at that page as well. Today, we celebrate and commemorate our martyrs from Lawrence Mann, co-founder of the African People's Socialist Party, to Aaliyah Anders, who defended herself and family against horizontal violence that was perpetuated by colonialism and the state apparatus known as the police. But first, before we go further with our program, we're going to ask you to stand and join us in unity as we sing the African Nation Fight Song. You'll find the African Nation Fight Song on our screen to my right. The African Nation Fight Song was written and produced by none other than Alikia Ngoma. Please stand.
We are Yes, white power, the parasite. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom organization. Socialist world our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning. Viva Haiti, who first set us free. We are winning. Carry the torch of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. We are winning. Ou peut-être pour les cailles. We are winning. We will rejoice when the colonizers die. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom organization. Socialist world our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning. Fight like Fannie Lou and Malcolm too. We are winning. Remember our struggle, always be true. We are winning. From Harlem to Brazil to Tanzania. We are winning. We fight and live for free Africa. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom organization. Socialist world our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning. Patrice Lumumba's life won't be in vain. We are winning. Keep up the work in Marcus Garvey's name. We are winning. Independent and free is what we will be. We are winning. Africa will bask in our victory. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom organization. Socialist world our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are
Moving forward with our program, once again, today's theme is celebrate our African martyrs. And we will continue with the program. Before we get into it more detail, we have our political education. And today's political education will be brought to you by our comrade Westbrook.
Uhuru. It's up.
Fight back.
It's up.
Fight back.
Uhuru. Okay, today's political education Well, before I start, I want to salute our leadership, Chairman Wally Yeshitela, Uhuru DC, and our president, Dr. Odom. Today's platform, 14-point platform, we will be dealing with point 5. And it is, we want the right to international, political, and economic association with Africans and all other peoples anywhere on the face of the earth. We believe that Black people are African peoples and are part of a single national entity. We believe that the genuine freedom of African people everywhere is irreversibly linked to the creation of an independent, united, and socialist Africa. We believe that the struggle of African people within the U.S. represent the U.S. front of a worldwide movement of African people for African liberation, political independence, and socialist democracy. We believe that the worldwide struggle for African liberation is in unity with the struggles being waged by the majority of the people of the world to end the oppression of nations by nations and to create a new world within which the toiling masses would end the system of workers and bosses, slaves and masters, and will own and benefit from the means and product of our own labor. And we will have political authorities of our own lives. We believe that the natural, objective friends of our struggles for African liberation, independence, and social democracy are all the toiling masses of the world. The people of the Middle East, the Asians, and Latin American peasants and workers. The democratic forces throughout the world, throughout the Eastern and Western European world, including the US. In the truly socialist state of the world, and that we must therefore have the absolutely right to free political and economic international association. The main ideals for point 5 states, we want the right to have relationships with African people and other oppressed people all over the world. And the chairman demonstrated this with being in contact with forces, not just in our community, but in Spain and Russia, etc. You know, in order to do this, point 2, we must have our own independence. Socialist United Africa. Our struggle, point 3, inside the U.S. is the U.S. front of the African liberation movement. The struggle for African liberation is in unity for the liberation struggle of other oppressed nations who are struggling to end the system of slaves and slave masters. Our objective, friend, are the struggling people of the Middle East, Asian, and Latin American, workers and peasants, as well as democratic forces and European in the US. Uhuru. Before I get to the questions, since I didn't expound, Chairman, do you want to expound?
Follow your leadership, John.
Well, there you go. Well, we're going to get into the questions so we could continue on with the agenda because it's going to be a dynamic study, Sunday event. So, question number 1. All Black people, and today our gifts would be the African flag, so don't everybody jump up and rush me at once. Question number 1. All Black people, wherever we are located in the world, are 1, African people, A. B, Negro peoples. C, Kenyans. Or D, Cameroonians. African people. Who was the first to say it? I think I heard 2. Who was the first? Well, But there you go, Fofi. Uhuru. Let's give it a round of applause for Fofi. Great job. That's right. African people, wherever we are located, we are African people. So don't we are one people. Touch one,
Touch all.
touch all. Question number 2. The genuine freedom for African people is linked to an independent Africa, a united Africa, a socialist Africa, or D, all of the above. Uhuru. Now, who was the first one that got that?
Raise their hand.
Well, I'll let you guys fight over it. Here. Good job. Good job. Okay, I'm about done. I'm about done. We got 2 more, I believe. 1 more, 2 more. All Africans inside the U.S. represent a European front of the African Liberation Movement. B, the Brazilian front of an African Liberation Movement. C, the U.S. front of an African Liberation Movement. Or D, an African front of the African Liberation Movement. I'm hearing the answer, but I'm not hearing where they're coming from.
Didn't they say it was C?
Well, we're gonna read it again. I heard a little debate. Well, hey, okay. We're gonna say it again. But I heard the answer, but just for the sake of it, the U.S. front of the African Liberation Movement. I'm sorry. I didn't read a question. I read one of the answers. The African people inside the U.S. represent, number 1, a European front of the African Liberation Movement. B, a Brazilian front of the African Liberation Movement. C, a U.S. front of the African Liberation Movement. Or D, a African front of the African Liberation Movement. I got scared now. Don't be scared. C. Good job. Good job, forces. All right, right on. Round of applause. Great job. We don't want to that was close, but we, you know what I'm saying, we the vanguard, we represent the front. But last but not least, the natural objective friend of our struggles are A, the KKK, B, animal rights. I'm sorry. This should be the easiest question for y'all. I'm sorry. Animal rights activists. C, preachers. All right now. D, all of the oppressed and tolerant masses of the world. Which one? D, exactly. Great job. Who you doing, Sister Curl? You was the one that got that? No. Sister Mother Sophia. There you go, sister. There you go. Great job. I appreciate y'all patience. That conclude this week of the 14-point platform. Next week we'll be dealing with point 6. So Uhuru. Urkel, did I do that?
All right, Uhuru, thank you. A little education there. So moving the program right along. So fight back. Africa. Okay, so next up, comrades, we're going to have a little culture, and we're going to bring up our comrade Gregory Reed.
Bye, Ghani brothers and sisters. Whoa. comrades. Yeah, this is a story called the Cowtail Switch. Now, it's about the legend of Ogalusa the hunter. And Ogalusa lived in Liberia in the village of Kundi, close to the Amazon forest. And he and his large family tended to their cattle and to their farms. And one morning, Ogalusa grabbed his shield, his spear, and he went into the forest to hunt. And he was gone all day. And that evening, Ogalusa hadn't returned. In fact, the next morning, Ogalusa hadn't returned. And his family asked, geez, where's father? Where's Ogalusa? A week went by, Ogalusa hadn't returned. A month went by, Ogalusa had not returned. But strangely, folks didn't call out his name anymore. And after several months, Ogalusa's wife, who was pregnant with another child, gave birth. And the little baby came out and he started to walk, and his first words were, where's my father? And everybody said, yes, where is father? And all the sons decided, well, we'd better go look for our father. So they gathered together and the sons went out into the forest looking for Ogalusa. And as they traveled, many times they became lost. And one of the sons found the tracks, and again, they went looking for Ogalusa. And finally, after many, many hours, they came upon a clearing, and there were Ogalusa's bones. And one of the sons said, hey, I have the power to put the bones back together. And he did. And another son said, I have the power to put skin on the bones. And he did. And another son said, I have the power to put breath into the body. And he did. And each of the sons contributed a little something. And finally, Ogalusa sat up. They gathered up his shield and his spear, and they went back to the village. And upon return, Ogalusa went into the house and he stayed there for 4 days. And then he called for a big feast. And they slaughtered a cow, and Ogalusa took the tail and he braided it into a beautiful, beautiful cow-tailed switch. Oh, it had cowrie shells and beads and bits of metal. And everybody in the village wanted this cow-tailed switch. And they all chanted for it. Let me have the cow-tailed switch, Ogalusa. Ogalusa finally said, I'm going to give it to my son who did the most to bring me back. And they said, oh, well, that was me. I'm the one that brought life into the body. No. I put skin on the body and I breathe breath into the body. And oh, there was a big clamor about who should get the cow-tail switch. All the villagers, in fact, they even got in on the, no, this son should get it and that one should get it. Finally, Ogalusa stood up. He said, I'm going to give to the son who did the most for my return. And that's my son, Puli, who asked when he was born, where is my father? And all the village, they gave out a big cheer because they knew that was a wise decision by Ogalusa. Because there was a saying in the village that a man is never dead until he is forgotten.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of addicted to these stories. She keep coming with them every week. We're going, that's going to just be permanent culture there. These parables be on point, don't they? Okay, there's two pieces I'm going to take care of right now. Before we go further into the program with some more presentation, first I want to read you what a definition of martyr is. Okay, it says a martyr. Martyr is someone who suffers persecution and death for advocating, renouncing, or refusing to renounce or advocate a religious belief or other cause as determined by an external party. In colloquial usage, the term can also refer to any person who suffers a significant consequence in protest or support of a cause. Let that seep in and understand why we celebrate martyrdom as we do in the Uhuru movement. And your definitions of it may not be the same as what you've always heard. So next, we're going to read the resolution that came from the African People's Socialist Party for African Martyrs Day. This resolution was adopted in 1981, and you also can follow along on the screen. So the struggle of African people to liberate our national homeland, Africa, to resist oppression and exploitation, and to overthrow the system of imperialism and advance the cause of world socialism has seen hundreds and thousands of our people make the ultimate heroic sacrifice, the sacrifice of life itself. The history of our resistance has been written in blood and flames. It has been punctuated by the courageous examples of such martyrs as Nat Turner, Stephen Biko, Patrice Lumumba, Walter Rodney, Nahanda Yakasikana, Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, Emil Cabral, and Lawrence Mann, who is the co-founder of the African People's Socialist Party. Historically, the oppressors of African people have attempted to turn history upside down and present the heroic examples of our freedom fighters as evidence of the futility, the hopelessness of our cause for political independence, African liberation, and world socialism, that is. In many instances, our oppressors have succeeded in demoralizing great numbers of our people by using the example of brutally murdering African freedom fighters to prove the invincibility of imperialism and the permanence of African oppression and exploitation. The next slide. The African People's Socialist Party rejects and denounces this reactionary view of the bourgeoisie and calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to proclaim February 21st, the anniversary of the 1965 imperialist assassination of Malcolm X, as the Day of the African Martyr. The African People's Socialist Party calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to take command of the history of our people's struggle for political independence, African liberation, and socialism by taking command of the definition of that history and resistance. The African People's Socialist Party calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to raise high in a revolutionary manner the heroic memory of all our fallen martyrs, of all those in every city, village, community, and country where they fell, as evidence of the determination of our people to fight every battle on every front until liberty has been won. The African People's Socialist Party calls on all African revolutionaries of all countries to initiate special ceremonies and programs in every community where an African revolutionary has fallen, and to raise the memory of our fallen freedom fighters in its proper revolutionary and historical significance. Next slide. The African People's Socialist Party calls on all party members to win the masses within the U.S. in all mass organizations where the African People's Socialist Party has influence to unite with this resolution. We call on every party unit, region, and organization to take out this call to the masses and to actively work to institutionalize February 21st as the Day of African Martyrs. Uhuru. Uhuru? Thank you. And we want to just recognize the brilliance of the Uhuru movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party to keep our people's memories alive and not just give, as we stated, what has been given to us as who our heroes are, either man or woman. Okay, so next up, we're going to hear from many of our comrades who are present today, and they will be telling a little bit, reciting a little bit about select African martyrs. Those who come up, they will recite for you. So first up, we have, in this order, we have Comrade Fofi, Comrade Carroll, Comrade Gregory Reed, and Comrade Westbrook. And I will read one, and Comrade Sophia. And then I will read one for Lawrence Mann. So first up, Comrade Fofi, she will read to you for Sandra Bland and Aaliyah Anders.
Uhuru.
Might not even know that that's not on stage.
Think that maybe by the time this meeting happens next Sunday, we could have resolved something about choirs and all that stuff, so this will be a complicated.
Uhuru comrades,
Uhuru.
Sandra Bland.
Yes.
Sandra Bland was a 28-year-old. Oh, Anders, I'm sorry. Aaliyah Anders, an African woman and mother of two, years lived in Lufkin, Texas, was shot by Lufkin police officer Lauren Nix in 2023 at the Great Oaks apartment complex. The complex had seen recent burglaries and attempts of which the police department had been aware. The perpetrators would knock on residents' doors frantically before breaking in. On December 23rd, Anders called the police department because a disturbance was occurring. She feared for the lives of her family. The police arrived and in police fashion, they banged on the door. Fearfully of a possible break-in, she drew her gun and opened it. Officer Nick was shining a flashlight and startling Anders, who banishly her gun in the direction of the unknown officer who she could not see was an officer. Nick stepped back, fired 4 shots, and killed Anders. Anders was simply protecting her household from colonial horizontal violence. Long live.
Long live.
Sandra Bland. Sandra Anita Bland. She was a 28-year-old African woman who was found hanged in a colonial jail cell in Waller County, Texas. Texas is hot, y'all. On July 13, 2015. 3 days after being arrested during a traffic stop, officials found her death to be a suicide. There were protests against her arrest, disputing the cause of death and the colonial violence against her. Bland was pulled over for a traffic violation on July 10th by State Trooper Brian Encina. The exchange escalated, resulting in Bland's arrest and a charge of assaulting a police officer. The arrest was partially recorded on Encina's dash cam, a bystander's cell phone, and Bland's own cell phone. After authorities reviewed the dash cam footage, Encina was placed on administrative leave for failing to follow proper traffic stop protocol procedures. Long live.
Long live.
Uhuru.
All right, Uhuru, thank you. Next up, we have our comrade, Sister Carol. Please come up. Uhuru, and she will recite Sonia Massey and Fred Hampton.
Okay. Now, Sonia Massey, born February 12th, 1988, and martyred July 6th, 2024. Now, I have my definition of martyr. This is just the
Okay.
way I read. I have to look up everything, translate names, and do everything. Now, my definition of martyr is a person who has been killed because of their religious beliefs or political beliefs. A martyred saint, a martyred civil rights activist. A person who is put to death or endures great suffering on behalf of any belief, principle, or cause. Her death has made her a martyr. A martyr is someone who suffers persecution and death for advocating, renouncing, or refusing to renounce or advocate a religious belief or other cause. Now, about Sonia Massey. She was born February 12, 1988, and martyred July 6, 2024. On July 6, 2024, Sonia Massey, a 36-year-old Black woman, was shot and killed in her home by Sean Grayson, a white deputy of the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in Woodside Township near Springfield, Missouri, United States. Massey called 911 about a possible prowler. Grayson and an unidentified deputy responded and found nothing after searching the vicinity. Moving inside her house, the deputies requested her ID, and Massey began searching for it. The situation escalated quickly when a deputy asked Massey to remove a pot of boiling water from the stove. Massey lifted the pot and said twice, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Grayson threatened to shoot her in the face and drew his service pistol. His partner did the same, and Gracie repeatedly yelled, "Drop the effing pot." And Massey apologized. Grayson then shot her 3 times, hitting Massey in the head and ultimately killing her. The unidentified officer stated that he was going to get their medical kit, but Grayson told him not to. Following the shooting, Grayson was fired from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, among other charges. Long live.
Long live.
All right, I want to just say about this, it's senseless to shoot anybody in the head 3 times for nothing.
Yeah.
And even though he was charged, I wonder myself whether he was getting paid while he was fired and so forth.
Yeah.
Yes, I have not researched Sonia Massey nor Fred Hampton. I'm just going by what's on this paper. I have not researched this, so I'm just going by this. And that was Sonia Massey. The second person is Fred Hampton, born August 30th, 1948, and martyred December 4th, 1969. And another thing, I read Revolution Suicide over 15 years ago, and I really don't remember what was in it, but it's an excellent read. I will say that about the book. Now, Fred Hampton was a United States-born revolutionary member of the Black Panther Party, BPP. Hampton began his political career organizing with the NAACP. However, as Black Party Panthers influence began to spread, he was immediately attracted to their approach and 10-point program that integrated Black self-determination and certain elements of Maoism. Maoism, it's pronounced Maoism. And Maoism means Mayor's in. All right, Miles ends up. It's the chaos and violence increased in the autumn and winter of 1969 as schools and universities closed so that students could dedicate themselves to revolutionary struggle. And they were encouraged to destroy 4 O's: old customs, old habits, old cultures, and old thinking. That's what that was about. Now, Hampton joined the party and relocated in downtown Chicago. And in November of 1968, he joined the party's nascent Illinois chapter. All right, I looked up nascent. It means nascent, similar, just beginning. That's the budding, developing, growing. That's nascent. Now, Hampton's organizing skills, substantial oratorical gifts, and personal charisma allowed him to rise quickly in the Black Panther Party. Once he became leader of the Chicago chapter, he organized weekly rallies, worked closely with the Black Party Panthers' local People's Clinic, taught political education classes every morning at 6 a.m. and launched a project for community supervision of the police. Hampton was also instrumental in the Black Party Panthers' free breakfast program. After previous leadership, he left the party because of a FBI fomented SNCC/Panther split. So, foment, I had to look that up, is to cause unnecessary problems. That's what that is in this particular situation. That's how it's defined. The SNCC that represents, that's short for Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, was a civil rights organization that led nonviolent protests and campaigns in the 60s. Actions included voter registration, freedom rides, sit-ins, and the 1963 March on Washington. Now, Hampton assumed chairmanship of the Illinois chapter Black Party Panther, automatically making him a national Black Party Panther deputy chairman. As the Panther leadership across the country began to be decimated by the impact of the FBI's COINTELPRO, Hampton's prominence in the national hierarchy increased rapidly and dramatically. Now, this COINTELPRO, I want to say a little about it. It was a series of illegal FBI projects that targeted political organizations the FBI considered subversive. The name is abbreviated for Counterintelligence Program. In 1968, he was on the verge of creating a merger between the Black Party Panther and a South Side street gang with thousands of members, which would have doubled the size of the National Black Party Panther. Eventually, Hampton was in line to be appointed Eventually, Hampton was in line to be appointed to the party's Central Committee's Chief of Staff. He would have achieved this position had it not been for his assassination on the morning of December 4th, 1969. Long live.
Long live.
All right, now. Okay. I have not researched Sonia Massey or Fred Hampton. I just want to say, this is what I'm reading from the paper. All right. All right. That concludes my little speech.
Uhuru, thank you. Well, you researched it now. Yeah, appreciate that. So next up, we have our comrade storyteller Gregory Reed. And he is going to read Patrice Lumumba and Stephen Biko.
Well, good.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Yes, sir. Patrice Lumumba was born July 2nd, 1925 in the Republic of Congo, and he was assassinated on January 17th, 1961. Lumumba was the first democratically elected minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, who was also, he was also a staunch anti-colonialist. Now, the Belgians, from what I was reading, they were willing to put together this election because they didn't think that Lumumba had any chance at all of winning. When the Belgians organized the general elections, they were convinced that the African petty bourgeois agents would win, establishing a servile pro-imperialist government that would maintain the status quo. But Lumumba's victory disrupted their program. His demands, which were total independence for the Congo from colonial control and the Congo's resources, must benefit the people of the Congo and help build a united Africa, won him the support of the majority of the Congolese and of the African world. And I just wanted to mention that in the United States, we have a tendency to see Africa and the nations that we now see in Africa being very similar to what we think our country is like. We don't see the vast diversity that is going on in the countries. So that made Lumumba's victory even more significant. I mean, there are about 200 different African or Congolese nations or language groups within the country. Makes it very, 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 very difficult to do any organizing. Yet he appealed to all of the Congo, and he appealed to the continent of Africa, and that's what made him so important and also made him so dangerous to the imperialists. Now, the Belgians, and in fact, the whole white colonial world worked overtime to overturn his victory, including the anti-colonial mass movement that is credited to his name. Belgium and the U.S. counterinsurgencies flowed into the Congo right after his celebration of victory in June of 1960. The Belgian army began military reoccupation of the Congo when they occupied the airport in Njili and the port of Matale. And I just wanted to mention again that it was the use of outside armies and military force that was responsible for the collapse of the government that Lumumba had put together. Now, in August, they triggered a secession in Kazi, which is a part of the Belgians' anti-colonial or anti-African or Congolese government, and they put up a couple of puppet groups, including Kasavubu and Mobutu, and they effectively overthrew the government of Lumumba. But it wasn't just enough for them to overthrow the government. Lumumba was, of course, assassinated by firing squad. He was buried, and then days later, his body was exhumed, dismembered, submerged in sulfuric acid. Now, this horrific act was meant to erase any memory of Lumumba from history, but they failed. Long live.
Long live.
Long live.
Now, Stephen Biko was a South African Azania-born revolutionary who in 1968 established a new all-Black organization, the South African Student Organization. He was elected as the first president in July of 1969. Sasso adopted a new pro-Black and radical doctrine that became known as Black consciousness, which by Biko's definition was the cultural and political revival of an oppressed people. By 1971, the Black consciousness movement had grown into a formidable force throughout the country. In an attempt to reform Sasso, he also incorporated an adult element. Biko established the Black People's Convention as well as the Black community programs. The development of the BCM clearly threatened the establishment. And in 1973, it was banned and confined to the district of King Williamstown, his birthplace. Among other things, banning prohibited him from teaching or making public addresses, speaking to more than one person at a time, preventing him from entering educational institutions, and ordering him to report to a local police station once a week. In spite of this being banned, Biko continued to advance the work of Black consciousness. He established Eastern Cape branch of the BCP. He organized literacy and dressmaking classes as well as health education programs. Quite significantly, he set up a health clinic outside of King Williamstown for poor rural Blacks who battled access to city hospitals. Now, Biko died of brain injuries while he was in police custody. You know, all these things that happen to Black folks while they're in police custody. They ended Biko's life, but they did not end his spirit. And I couldn't help but associate what had happened to Fred Hampton that had happened to Biko. And it was also, if you notice, that same time period. Young people were coming alive under Black consciousness in the late 60s. And I think that's significant. There was no memo that went out. There was no letter that said that, hey, Black people around the world, whether you're in South Africa, whether you're in the Congo, whether you're in the United States, y'all need to uprise against this colonialism. There was a spirit there. And that spirit grew. And I think we're seeing a spirit today. And in the spirit of Brother Biko, long live.
Long live. All right, right on. Now, next up, we have Conrad Sophia, who will be reading for Mafunde Lake and Omowale Kefing.
Okay, so Omowale Kefing helped build the defense for Desi Woods, and she was an African woman who was jailed in 1975 for killing a white would-be Georgia rapist with his own gun. In 1976, Kefing organized our party's contingent to the bicentennial Without Colony held in Philadelphia. That same year in St. Petersburg, Florida, he played a role in organizing the African People's Solidarity Committee, which is the white solidarity organization under our party's leadership. In 1979, Kefing was the lead organizer in Louisville, Kentucky, building the African National Prison Organization, our party's response to the massive incarceration. That year, Kefing also stood up against hundreds of frothing at the mouth white people at a party-led demonstration in Gainesville, Florida, in solidarity with the people of Iran and Iranians in the country who were facing lynch mobs after the Iranian people's seizure of the U.S. embassy there. In 1981, Kefing organized a major rally in Birmingham, Alabama, in defense of the political prisoners, the prisoner Mafunde Lake. In 1982, Kefing played a key role in putting the community control of housing, a land reform initiative, on the ballot in Oakland, California, known as Measure O. The initiative won 22,000 votes. In his years in Oakland, Kefing led countless campaigns against African homelessness and police violence. Kefing coordinated the Uhuru Park struggle in Oakland in 1983, where our party served 3 meals a day for African people living in the park. In 1985, he represented our party in a meeting with the Mexicano Liberation Organization, Union del Barrio, developing a working relationship that is still strong today. In 1986, Keating led the first African Liberation Day in Philadelphia after the city dropped a bomb on the home of MOVE family, murdering 11 African women, men, and children, and burning down the entire African neighborhood. It was Keating who built the relationship of our party with the struggle for our people in occupied Azania, South Africa, where we now have organizers on the ground building our party and the African Socialist International. Comrade Keating was able to fulfill a lifelong dream when he organized our party in Sierra Leone and Kenya in Africa. Keating was the longtime editor of the prolific writer for our newspaper, The Burning Spear, which you should get a copy of, a publication that he loved and worked hard to get into the hands of African working class every month. He was a working class intellectual, a brilliant writer, organizer, and analyst with a sharp wit. Because he was unassuming, he was loved by the masses and always underestimated by our enemies. Of all the people upheld as icons of the struggle of our people, none of them can claim the achievements, revolutionary stamina, and stature of Omaweli Keating, who was selfless and willing to undergo the harshest conditions if it was for our revolution.
Long live.
Long live.
And then Mafundi Lake, born March 1st, 1940, passed away in prison January 21st, 2018. Mafundi was a political prisoner for over 40 years, but he never wavered. He literally did a life sentence, dying 31 years after continued incarceration for a crime he did not commit. At the time of Mafundi's death, he was serving a life sentence under the 3 strikes, you're outlaw. Mafundi was arrested on the trumped-up rape charge 8 days following a successful National African Liberation Day march, rally, and conference in May of 1983 in Birmingham, which Mafundi was the primary organizer. Born in 1940, Mafundi grew up in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1950s in what was a political hotbed of Black protests and Montgomery bus boycotts and the string of the movement for Black power and self-defense. Mafundi, like many young Africans at the time, was swept off the streets by the Birmingham police and Sheriff Bull Connors, deputies to do slave labor in many agricultural prison camps throughout the state. As a teenager, he was framed for a $34 robbery and sentenced to 14 years hard labor. The police had taken a potential organizer revolutionary from the streets and put him in prison. It was at the Atmore Holman prison facility where Mafundi came into full bloom as an organizer and Black revolutionary. Well aware of the oppression in the outside African community, the horror of life inside the prison walls was a gruesome reality. No medical care, guards murdering and torturing inmates, gutter food, and absolutely no rights to speak of in the field of the prison plantations. In response to these conditions, Mafundi organized Inmates for Action, IFA, one of the first and most effective prison organizations to come out of the Black Revolution of the 60s. In retaliation for his organizing efforts, Mafundi was to spend 12 consecutive years in solitary confinement. Despite this, however, the state was not able to break his will. Upon his release from prison, Mafundi helped to organize the first prisoner support organization in Alabama, the Committee for Prisoner Support in Birmingham, Families for Action, African People's Survival Committee, and the Atmore Holman Brothers Defense Committee. Mafundi worked with the African People's Socialist Party, building the National Committee to defend Desi Woods in the 1970s. Desi Woods, who was an African woman sentenced to prison for killing a white man who tried to rape her. In the summer of 1978, following the march on Plains, Georgia, U.S. President Jimmy Carter's hometown, to free Desi Woods, the African People's Socialist Party began the organized efforts to build the African National Prison Organization, ANPO. Mafundi was named national coordinator of the organization, which he took on with the zealousness of the freedom fighters he was. He led many heroic demonstrations with the APSP, and Mafundi would continuously write to the Burning Spear newspaper and organize behind prison walls. Mafundi has surely won his place among the patriotic African martyrs. Long live Mafundi Lake.
Okay, moving along with our mortars, we have Conrad Westbrook, who will read George Jackson and Mike Brown.
Israel too. Yeah. Yeah, Africa. Uhuru. Uhuru. She was just speaking about move. How many of y'all remember that old school song? What was it? She dropped a bomb on me, baby. Some of us don't know that was written about that particular incident, but Uhuru. George Jackson.
Yeah.
What you said. George Jackson was an African born in America who became a field marshal of the Black Panthers Party while in prison, where he spent the last 12 years of his life. When Jackson was 18, he was sentenced for 1 year to life for stealing $70 from a gas station. He spent the next 11 years in prison. 8.5 of those he spent in solitary confinement. When he was 28 years old, he was charged with the murder of a guard in Soledad prison. Shortly after this indictment for this murder, his first book, Soledad Brothers, a book of his letters, was produced in England, Germany, Italy, and Sweden. And his book was a collective of letters. Some of them included letters from Angela Davis, which was, his partner. He was an acclaim throughout the world as the most powerful and eloquent Black writer to emerge in years. He became a symbol for the struggle of all oppressed people. Commenting on Jackson's writing was C.L.R. James, pointed out that the letters are, in my opinion, the most remarkable political document that have appeared inside or outside the U.S. Since the death of Vladimir Lenin. Jackson's second book, Blood in My Eyes, was completed only days before his assassination. Blood in My Eyes was clearly showed Jackson's global outlook. He wrote, "The commitment to total revolution has involved an analysis of both." Okay, I'm sorry, let me reread that. The commitment to total revolution must involve an analysis of both the economic motives and a social motives which perpetrate the oppressed contract. For the Black partisan, national structure are quietly simple non-existence. A people without collective conscience are transcending national boundaries of African-American, Negro, even American, without the sense of largest community than their own group, can have no effect on history. On August 21st, 1971, 3 days before he was to go to trial, George was assassinated in the prison yard at San Quentin, and what was later exposed as an FBI counterinsurgency operation. Long live George Jackson.
Long live.
And I'm speaking on him, I would be remorse not to speak on his younger brother, 17-year-old Jonathan Jackson. We know that because of the injustice George Jackson was dealing with, his brother tried to break him out of jail, kidnap a judge and a couple other folks. And in that process, by the time they went to the waiting van on the outside, they were surrounded by policemen where they was executed. Show you how much they give a care about Archon. They even executed their own judge just to put down Jonathan Jackson. So I want to also say long live Jonathan Jackson.
Long live.
Uhuru. Mike Brown. On August 9th, I'm sorry. On August 9th, 2014, 18-year-old African Michael Brown was shot and killed by Derry Wilson, a white male Ferguson police officer, when he initiated a confrontation by grabbing Brown by the neck through his patrol car window, threatening him and then shooting at him. At this point, Mike and Johnson, Michael Brown's friend, fled, trying to escape the gunshots while Wilson was pursuing. According to Johnson, Wilson continued shooting at Mike Brown, and it was at this point that Mike Brown stopped and turned around with his hands raised after Wilson was shooting at and towards his back. Wilson then shot Michael Brown multiple times until Mike fell to the ground, including twice during the struggle within the car. Mike was struck 6 times, all in the front of his body, including a couple rounds to the top of his head. This event ignited unrest in Ferguson. Peaceful protests turned violent when multiple areas police agencies had a militarized response with a tactics, at the same time being insensitive to the parents and the people of the St. Louis region. A grand jury was called, and evidence from the so-called prosecutor, St. Louis prosecutor Robert McCollum, thank you. Like 3 months later, less than 3 months later, November 24th, 2014, Robert announced that the grand jury had decided not to indict Wilson. And a lot of us says it was a tactic to what he did. He threw all type of unnecessary materials in front of the jury that it was so hard for them to decipher what from what. And the easiest thing for them to do is just, from some things, just throw it out. But in March, in 2024, he decided that not to bring indictment. The grand jury did not bring indictment. In March 2015, the DOJ, Obama DOJ reported that the conclusion of its own investigation, and they cleared Wilson of any civil rights violation. They cleared him of any violation of the shooting. Mouth dry, forgive me. Obama Justice Department concluded that Wilson killed Mike Brown in self-defense. This your colonialist that was in the office, Eric Hold'em. He was black neo-colonialist, and Barack Obama neo-colonialist. I mean, they concluded with the investigation by saying that Wilson killed Mike Brown in self-defense. Another one of your neo-colonialists In 2020, Wesley Bell spent 5 months trying to see if he would charge Wilson with manslaughter or murder. Ultimately, he decided not to charge him. So we see all levels of the state, from the prosecutor to the prosecutor to DA to the DOJ, all them neo-colonialists. Give a little background. We know that Mike Brown was born 1996. He was martyred August 9th, 2014. And he graduated from Normandy High School 8 days before his death, his assassination. He was a rapper who went by Big Mike. You can find some of his songs to this day on SoundCloud. But the funny thing about it, he was assassinated 2 days before he was going to take a trade up in Veteran Cottage. I mean, they try to demonify him when they assassinate him. So I just want to point out the things that they didn't point out, that the 18-year-old brother graduated before they assassinated him. But not only he graduated, he was about to take a trade up at Veteran College. Two more things and I'm done with it. His father told me something interesting, that a couple of days right after the graduation from thank you. He sat down with his son. They had a dinner. I forget where they went, but they had a dinner, and his son was so excited. His son was starting to speak that you're gonna know my name. My name, Sparks, thank you. Spoke that into existence. But his son didn't know, or did he? But he said, you're gonna know my name. My name gonna be more popular than a lot of hip hop artists. And he started mentioning a few. And then he said that that was one point. And then he got off the subject, and a little bit later he got back on the subject, and he said, you know what? Y'all gonna know my name. I shall leave and come back and save my people. And both of these statements it threw Mike Brown off his father, and he just threw it to the side. But he said both of those statements made a lot of sense once his son was martyred. 10 years later, 6 months was 10 years anniversary, and I'm saying that we doing a damn thing. Long live Mike Brown. Uhuru.
All right, thank you, comrades. I want to appreciate everybody who came and read about the Martyrs. And the final one that we're going to read for today is about Lawrence Mann. Lawrence Mann was a founding member of the African People's Socialist Party. He was born on February 29th, 1944. Mann founded the Black Rights Fighters organization in Fort Myers, Florida. As the Black Rights Fighters, Lawrence Mann, along with Vincent Lawrence, now known as Nyindu, organized offices throughout Fort Myers and we'd help the African working class community. They worked heavily with the community of African migrant workers. In this accord, Lawrence Mann had also worked with the Florida Rural Legal Services, and Nyindu describes Comrade Lawrence Mann as a very outspoken person. However he felt about you, he'd tell you. He was a very articulate writer as well. Mann and the Black Rights Fighters formed the Ebony Star newspaper. This work brought them in contact with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Junta of Militant Organizations, JOMO. On May 25th, 1972, this organization, the Black Rights Fighters of Fort Myers, Florida, merged with the Junta of Militant Organizations, which was led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Gainesville Black Study Group, to form the APSP, African People's Socialist Party, on African Liberation Day in St. Petersburg, Florida. Lawrence Mann represented the party at some important convenings such as the National Black Political Assembly. 8 months after the founding of the party, Lawrence Mann was assassinated in a car wreck on January 10th, 1973. Long live. All right, and now, cameras, we're going to bring up our keynote speaker. We've mentioned him in this. And of course, we want to recognize Chairman Omali Yeshitela. He is the leader of the Uhuru movement, the leader of the African People's Socialist Party, and has been involved in the work for many, many years. Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru.
Uhuru, comrade. Uhuru. I want to express my appreciation to Comrade Kumba and also to the NPDM for presiding over this important discussion that we're having today. I want to also express appreciation to Comrade Gregory. It was a great story that he told, and I think it's a reflection of what this is all about. Where is my father? And somebody asked that question of Lawrence Mann and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and the various people who we've just mentioned who were murdered in this country or in the world by this social system that we're talking about. And what we're doing is presenting the fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers who were assassinated by a social system. I think it's important for us to say that we're talking about a social system. There are individuals who carried out particular acts, but it's the system itself that is a murderous system. It's a system of assassinations. You cannot take control of the lives of peoples around the world without an ongoing, incessant violence being imposed on those people. And the violence by the system that we're talking about is legal. Sometimes people get confused around that question because right now you hear people saying that Trump, for example, the recently elected president of the United States, is somehow undermining what they like to refer to as rules-based governance. And this suggests that everybody stands a chance of being victimized because there's no rules, there are no laws. But our problem hasn't been the absence of laws. Our problem has been the fact that laws have been created for the exact purpose of maintaining our enslavement. When we look at what happened with the grand jury and Mike Brown, it was not an extraordinary act. The grand jury absolved Mike Brown's murderer, but it didn't just do that. It wasn't just because the grand jury was presenting confusing information, confusing evidence. The population of Ferguson and St. Louis were not provided with confusing information. And what was it that made them buy up all the guns? All the guns and all the ammunition in St. Louis after that. You couldn't buy a round of ammunition. You couldn't buy a gun because the white people had bought it all. And it wasn't based on the assumption that somehow a grand jury had provided some confusing, had been provided with confusing evidence. It was based on the unity with colonial domination of African people. And I think that's something that we have to really come to terms with, that we live in a social system. You can't, on the one hand, say that African people are oppressed, and I do say that. And I think that everybody in this room will say that African people are oppressed. So if you come to that conclusion, then it becomes necessary to recognize that if for there to be an oppressed people, there must be an oppressor. There must be an oppressor for there to be an oppressed people. And I think that's really important for us to look at. We're having this discussion on today as a part of the process that was initiated a long time ago by the African People's Socialist Party. We're an organization that's more than 50 years old. And we are a part of the same tendency that we have seen recognized by the martyrs that we've talked about up to now. Malcolm X was a part of this tendency that we're talking about. Fred Hampton was a part of this tendency that we're talking about. The fact is that people who want to be free, independent, were in the progress of trying to make that happen. And in the 1960s, it was a high tide of struggle of oppressed peoples all around the world. Vietnam, Cuba, everywhere throughout the Americas, and in this country, people were rising up to get the white man's boot off our necks. It was a natural response to oppression. And of course, what we've seen is martyrs scattered all around the world. African martyrs, Vietnamese martyrs, Cuban martyrs, everybody who stood up against this social system that came into existence as a consequence of slavery and worldwide colonialism. So when we stand up, we shake the foundation of this country. It's important to say that because we get taught on a regular basis as African people. Not only do we get taught this, but others get taught this. The colonizers get taught this, that we are inconsequential in terms of history, that we are meaningless forces. We're just there, a bit of flotsam that's out in the world. And that history, that we play no meaningful role in history. When I say playing a role in history, I'm not talking about who made peanut butter, which is something that people often tell you, well, who made the first peanut butter? Jiffy owns it. I'm not talking about that. When I'm talking about history, I'm talking about the whole process that human beings go through to produce and reproduce life. That is the process of making history. And that's important for us to recognize. And that is a concrete material process. I'm not talking about a process that was initiated by Jesus or by Allah or by some religious or some force that's outside of the world that we live in. I'm talking about that was made in the world that we live in by human beings who declare themselves to be like gods and determined to dominate the entire world, to suck the blood, suck the resources, suck the dignity, suck the future of our children. This is the kind of system that we are talking about. This is what we're up against, have been up against. And so the African People's Socialist Party that created the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement was born for the purpose of changing that. We are part of the same process that gave birth to Malcolm X, that we saw expressed in the existence of Malcolm X and Fred Hampton and Steve Biko and Patrice Lumumba and others around the world. We're part of that. Our objective, we will not be satisfied with anything short of absolute total control of our lives as a people and our resources that have been stolen away from us. We will not be satisfied with anything short of that. And the promise that somehow we'll get better treatment as a slave on the plantation is not something that will satisfy us. And the problem, of course, is that we live in a situation right now where too many of African people who call themselves leaders have agreed to submit to this oppression as long as it can be a nicer oppression. People look at things like elections. We participate in elections. We believe in participating in elections. We don't give them that. There wouldn't be elections happening in this country of universal suffrage if it were not for the struggles of Black people. We're the ones who did that. We're the ones whose churches were bombed just for trying to register to vote. We were the ones that happened too. Didn't happen to white women. Didn't happen to white homosexuals. Didn't happen to white people. Generally speaking, it happened to black people. Our children were murdered. Our leaders were assassinated just for trying to register to join Kamala Harris's organization, Joe Biden's organization, and what have you. So we fought for democracy, the right to be free, the right to have suffrage in this country. And then we brought democracy to this country to the extent that it exists on the backs of black people. I say this with absolute confidence. We've defined what freedom is supposed to look like here and around the world. Black people have done that. And how can I say that with such confidence? I can say it with such confidence because the entire system is built on the attack of Africa and African people that dispersed us all around the world and stole of our resources and continue to steal our resources and make us hate our resources, including our own identity. That's the thing that we're living with. That's why the question of where's my father? That's why they would take Lumumba and cut him up in little pieces and then put him in acid to try to disappear the body. And then even after doing that, set it afire to disappear us so that we don't exist anymore. It's like somehow you can get on a boat in Africa as an African and then get off in St. Louis as a Negro. What the hell happened between Africa and St. Louis? What happened between Africa and Jamestown, Virginia, that made African disappear? That's an extraordinary journey, isn't it? That's one of the reasons that we talk about martyrs, because there's a history to what brought us here. And courageous men and women fought. I look at poor Sandra Bland. You know, she died in a place called Waller County, Texas. Did you know that? That the name that was given to my father and his father and to me was Waller. So we see the same Waller County that killed Sandra Bland owned. Black people owned my relatives, yours too, maybe. But this is the history of the relationship we're talking about. I'm not going to allow anybody to prettify that. This is what we're fighting against. And I just think it's really important to say that. I want to say, I have to move quickly because I know we don't have much time here. Look at Belgium. Talking about Lumumba. Lumumba murdered by Belgians. Did you know that in Belgium, in Congo, where the so-called Belgian Congo, because they own it, just like the Wallers own me. The Belgian, I was a Waller Congolese. You understand? The Belgian Congo, did you know that Belgium is something that Congo is something like 80 times larger than Belgium? Congo is 80 times larger than Belgium. I'm talking, when I say Congo in this instance, I'm talking about what they call the Belgian Congo. I'm not talking about Brazzaville and that part of Congo, but just Belgian Congo itself was 80 times larger than Belgium. And they used terror, pure, nasty terrorism to control us. And then they painted lovely pictures of themselves. You can go to Belgium and learn anything good about African people in Congo. What you could see in Belgium, and I've been there. What you could see in Belgium, just like I went to Moscow.
Just like that.
And I'm saying I was in Belgium, I was in Moscow, I was all over the world with the struggle of African people, and that's the thing that they wanted to keep us from being able to do and be connected with, so that I couldn't see that what they call Belgians were treating African people in Congo and in Belgium just like they were treating African people here. Did you know in Belgium, I can't remember if it's Antwerp, I think it may have been Antwerp, they have a zoo. And in that zoo, they had a space in that zoo where they kept African people behind glass. I'm talking about they took people from a village. They created a false village behind glass. For white people who come to the zoo in Belgium, they can see Black people living behind glass in these huts that they have created for us. This was their entertainment. They didn't just do it there, they did it in St. Louis too, at the World's Fair. Did you know that? At the World's Fair, they did this, etc. This has been our treatment. I'm not saying this because I'm asking anybody to be bitter. I'm just asking somebody to recognize the conditions and how the hell we got here. And we didn't get here through prayer. And we didn't get here because we had lack of civilization. The ones who had no civilization, the ones who put human beings in cages for their entertainment. Yet they're the ones who define what civilization is. So we're here because we don't like this oppression and exploitation. We don't like ours. We don't like oppression and exploitation for anybody. Only ones who are going to be oppressed when this thing is over are those who continue to try to maintain a system based on slavery and colonialism. I'm sorry, they're going to have to do some time at minimum. That's the minimum. That's the minimum. That's the minimum. Most of the jails going to go because there ain't that many of them to be locked up. But somebody going to jail. That's the minimum that's going to happen. You can't just keep having these so-called grand juries and nothing happens to murderers. Everybody in the world know they're murderers. Everybody knows them. They leave this boy on the ground for 4.5 hours in 100-degree plus weather, right there on the asphalt. You know how it gets in St. Louis in August? That didn't have anything to do with confused instruction to the jury, to the grand jury. They left them there as an example, niggas. This is what awaits you if you ever stand up against your oppression. That's why they give us martyrs. They don't have to give us martyrs. They didn't have to kill King the way they killed King. They could have made it look like a car accident. How many of us have they killed like that? How many of them murdered that they didn't even say, this is how we're killing you? They've done it, though. They didn't have to kill Malcolm like they killed Malcolm. Look at how they killed Patrice Lumumba. Anybody remember the video of this brother right around the same time frame that Mike Brown was killed? And they killed his brother in New York because they said he was selling single cigarettes. That's a hell of a thing to kill somebody for, isn't it? First, they you know, they give you the cigarettes to kill you. And then they get you addicted on it. And they kill you because of that. But I shall never forget. The murder is enough. But you see the humiliating way that they killed him. Do you see how they stood and pushed his head into the cement? It reminds us of George Floyd, doesn't it? George Floyd wasn't unusual. This was ordinary treatment of African people. So we don't like that. We're going to change it. In order to maintain this, it's been spoken of before. A system has been created to maintain this relationship of oppression. The system is characterized as counterinsurgency. Like COINTELPRO that you heard about, that Comrade Carol was talking about, COINTELPRO, it is a form of counterinsurgency. And counterinsurgency is the means by which an oppressor does everything to make sure that the oppressed do not rise up. They call the rising up of the oppressed an insurgency. So they've developed a science called counterinsurgency. to make sure that the oppressed cannot successfully rise up. And they use every form of warfare with counterinsurgency. They use economic war, they use psychological war to make this happen. And of course, in the final analysis, what they rely on is military force. And when I say military force, I don't mean they have to come like in armies like they did to my house on Redbud. And we can military force there. I'm talking about your local cop, your local military force that's called police in these communities. There's nothing but a standing army. So we are organizing here to overturn this relationship. We're moving towards creating a Black community convention, St. Louis Black Community Convention. We can't even say what we want collectively. You got a situation where your oppressor has no respect for the boundaries of wards, districts, and things like that. No respect. You got people who you participate in electing, and they tell you, well, I can't come over there because that's not my ward. Yeah. Don't you hear that before? And but somebody doesn't give a damn about those ward boundaries. And I'm just talking about the police because the police don't seem to be restricted, do they? I'm talking about the people who make the plans to say how this whole city is going to work. They don't get elected. They put together corporations. They have corporations who put together programs like Team 4, which was something they created in 1971 that was consciously, purposefully developed to suck all the resources out of this community. You want to look at the poverty in our community? They did it on purpose. Team 4, it was a plan that the government, the Rand Corporation, created it. They call it benign neglect. Let it rot. That was the politic, that our community should be sacrificed for the well-being. That's why that so-called, what's that divide? Delmar divide. That's why when you open your refrigerator, if you got one, you can't find anything because everything that you should have in there is on the other side of the Delmar divide. That's why your children don't have anything because their resources are on south of the Delmar divide. So this is the system that they created for us. And like I said, there's a plan that's at work all the time. You elect somebody because you think that this person can do something. This person is restricted also by these wards and these boundaries and what they do. But the plan has already been made that says what each of these people in the boundaries can do, will do, etc. Excuse me, I'm going to stop. We have to have our plan too. We have to have a Black community convention. That's what we're planning to do sometime in June. For everybody from the African community, don't give a damn what ward you live in. Come together. And we have our own plan. We put together our own Black community agenda. And what do we want? What do we want around culture? Shouldn't we have a cultural position? What do we want around education? What do we want around, what do they call this police fire thing? Public safety. What do we want? We have to define that ourselves. Say this is what we want for our children and unite the entire community across all the wards. But you have to be able to pull the entire community together to make that happen and then be damned with the wards. What do we want in terms of economic development? They place these restrictions on us when nothing restricts them. Anyway, I've spoken too long and I'm self-critical. This thing I've been fighting for a while now. So we need to continue to remember these martyrs, not just as nice people who loved us and who fought for us. That's really important. But as people who were part of a continuum for the liberation of our people, for us, for our children, etc. And we have to live like them.
Yes.
They killed them to keep you from being willing to fight. They killed them so that you and your people, our people, be demoralized and won't struggle. They killed them. But what we say is the fact that they murdered them is evidence of why we have to fight, why we have to struggle, why we have to get rid of this kind of social system.
Fight back. Uhuru. All right. Next, everything has been very just dynamic and informative. So we know we've learned a whole lot and there's much more to learn. And we have some discussion a little bit further. But next, we're going to call up Conrad Fofi, who is going to address the call to membership and the call for resources.
He's ready to.
Yeah.
Africa. Okay, comrades. How you doing? Freedom. Uhuru. I am here to give you the opportunity to be in this fight. One by one, you can become a member. If you're not, our goal today is $150. Now, if you want to do it with cash, we have Brother Westbrook here. If you want to do it on Cash App, it's Cash App in PDUM. If you want to do it with your credit card online, you can go online and go to impedum.org/donate. Now, these resources are right here, where you can see them, where you can feel them. The electric, the gas, the heat, the cold, the caramel, the nice smell. We put all these resources out here. We give you papers, we give you flyers, we give you information. We have internet to get the word out to you. This is what that $150 goes for. And once a month, it's not only fueling Africans here, we have the Impedum is an international organization. And we also fund Africa. So they too can fight for freedom with us. So a little of these resources go there also. So we're not just supporting people we can see. We're supporting people that are around the world that are also African and a part of us. If you would like to get on the fight right here on the ground, you can become an International People Democratic Uhuru Movement member. That's in PDUM. And what we do is the ground organization to educate you on the level that you're on. You can be the CEO, you can be the janitor, or you can be the guy out front trying to make $1. We will educate you on what the schools and the systems don't want you to know, the political life that you have been cut out of. You can join in PDUM at different levels, but whatever level you're on, you have the same power as somebody that come in at the top level or the bottom level. The basic level right now is $10 while we still got it up. When they take it down, it'll be $25, which it was before. This is a special. So I would say jump on this $10 a year level right now. You can be a George Jackson or Desi Wood level, which is a $5 membership for our incarcerated brothers and sisters. Musa Bantu level is a $10 membership a year for students and those that are unemployed. But when you do get employed, you can also add to that $10 membership, okay? So if there is anyone that would like to be a member, we can get you in here now today. Any members?
Said 10 for.
A year.
For the year.
It says for annual membership for students and unemployed members. How much is it regularly?
That's 10 out. That's always
That's for
10.
everyone.
Uh-huh. But the basic level at the bottom is usually $25. The one at the bottom that say is $10 annual special rate. Once they change that special rate, it'll go back up to $25.
If it's up to me, that's gonna be soon.
I hear you. Okay, so this is the membership that will get you on the ground where you can have a word in your political surroundings and things that you want to help change in your neighborhood. That's what Chairman is is speaking of about a community convention. St. Louis needs to speak up, and we need to get out and do it together, because if one person do it, you're never heard. But if you make a fist, you make a blow. Even me, I'm only 4'11". Okay, Conrad. I will come back. If anybody's online, please go to Cash App, Impedum, Cash App, Impedum, or impedum.com/donate. And I will turn this back over, and I'll come back to you later and let you know when we reached our goal. Our goal is $150, and we can do it. We've done it before. All right, Uhuru.
Uhuru. All right, thank you, Conrad Fofi. Appreciate that. Now we're going to open it up for some community discussion, talk, question and answers, and also online. For those of you may have some questions in the chat box, you can go ahead and drop those down there, or your comments, and we'll be sure to look at that and see what you're saying. Okay, so we've been discussing martyrs and martyrdom for African people, and what does that mean? What does it look like in a way to be like some of the martyrs? You know, you want to kind of live like, you don't necessarily want to always die like. We're going to do that anyway, but we don't need to go into the struggle with the concept that I'm ready to die type of thing. You need to be going into the struggle saying that you're ready to live.
Yeah.
So comrades in the audience, we can come up here to this microphone if you have a comment or a question for us, and we can entertain that. And as that is going on, we're also checking to verify if there's nothing online in terms of a question or comment. We have a question or comment coming from the audience. Come on up. Uhuru, you got it.
It's good to be in your presence, Conrad Yasatelli, because I helped write the letters for UAP over Zaki Rudy, and we was up late night making sure we got a couple of letters. And I haven't had a chance to see you and be in your presence. It's good to see a free man, a fight man, and then a man that won.
Right
So
on.
it's really good to see you.
Right on.
Let me just say
Yeah, go
that I want to appreciate that comment in part because Universal African Peoples Organization is the organization that opened the door for us to come into St. Louis. After Mike Brown was killed, murdered, slaughtered in the streets, and the people rose up, we reached out. And we were able to connect with our dear comrade, Brother Zaki Baruti. In fact, we brought him to Philadelphia at a conference we were having at the furniture store that we own in Philadelphia. I mean, I said we brought him, but he was on his way to New York for an event around Marcus Garvey. You remember that was in August when that happened. And so, UAPO, as you know, Universal African Peoples Organization, opened the door. for us to come in and do this work. So thank you so much for all your cramped fingers from writing those letters and helping that to be the case. And I think it's just a clear example. And I mentioned, the trajectory that we are part of in terms of the tendency. Well, the same thing is true with the Universal African Peoples Organization. I mean, that's where the name comes from. It's the Universal Negro, Universal African, come on, UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association. That's from Marcus Garvey. And so that name was tweaked to create the Universal African Peoples Organization. And we consider ourselves 21st century Garveyites as well. So thank you so much.
Uhuru. And on that note, can I have Mama Safia to please stand? Mama Safia is a founding member of that said organization, the Universal African Peoples Organization, used to be UAAPO back in the day. So anything else from the audience? Yeah, please do. And you come to this microphone right here, please.
Hi. Well, so this is my first time here.
Wow.
And I was invited by the previous lady who just spoke on the microphone.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
we are radicals, okay? Okay. So I guess I would like to know more information. I know you all were asking about memberships and things of the sort. I am a very innovative, creative, very active person. I don't like to talk about stuff. I like to do it.
Well,
So I do want to know more information. I do have a background in education. I've been a school teacher for over 20 years. I also have big business background as well. I owned a Steak and Shake for a while as well. So I am looking to help the community, enlighten the community in whatever I could possibly do, but I do want to know more information because my pet peeve is wasting time.
right. Yeah.
I taught all over. I taught college. I taught, right now I'm teaching middle school. I just went back to teaching in October. I sold my restaurant a couple of years ago, took a few years off, and now I'm back into this. So I've been in St. Louis Public Schools. I've taught at Live for Life. I've taught at St. Louis College of Health Careers, a lot of things.
Yeah. Uhuru, that's a great resource to have in the community. You come, you gotta, oh no? Conrad 4 feet, you ready? No? Okay, or if you are, let me know.
Well, I want to say something.
Okay, then.
Okay. I just want to say, a comment that really, like Desi Wood said, she's sick and, was it Desi Wood?
That was
Fannie Lou Hammond said she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Now we had all these new martyrs to talk about today. I'm sick and tired of names on that list getting longer. It is time. It is time. It is past time for us to get off our behinds and stop this stuff by talking to our people and educating them. Now, once you put the education, like, okay, my mother, she would say, I'm gonna tell you what to do or what's right. And after you get the information, it's up to you to do something with it or not listen at all. So after you put it in their heads and put it in their face, it's up to them to realize that's the only thing they can do is to follow your direction, because if not, they'll end up being a martyr. Okay? And I'm sick of the list getting longer. I'm sick of it. Okay, now, okay, I've said my piece. If you donated online, please let me know because we can't follow it online now. I got Raya's. Did anybody else donate online?
Just so.
Okay, okay. Well, we have $65 of $150 gold. So I will do $20. So that's give us $85.
That's your puts.
All right, Chairman. 105.
So we need $45 more.
There's the brother back there.
All right, comrade. How much?
$20.
Oh, wow. You know what? We down to $20. $2 a piece, people. That'll do it. 10 people, $2.
Our last to $1.
That sounds like, what's the record? That's Johnny Taylor.
Okay, it's 2. I got 2. Well, I got 2 more.
There's another 2. There's another 2.
Okay. Oh, huh? Okay,
Yeah,
so what's that? We needed
okay, good.
$2.
There we go, make this.
Yep.
Sure appreciate the change too. If it's jingle, it still count.
How you say that from, how you say that about the coins?
Oh, they spin, you know, they add up. All right, comrades, I'm gonna claim it. We made our goal, okay? Uhuru! Uhuru. I had something else on my mind, but I can't think of it now. But guess what? I'll be back next week. Make sure I bring it up. Uhuru!
Uhuru, thank you, comrades. Appreciate that and everything. Next on the agenda, we're gonna go ahead and kind of quickly just fall through because we don't have any more discussion or questions coming from the audience, nothing online. We're going to our announcements. And first up for the announcement is going to be Comrade Ciali.
Right, Uhuru, everybody. So you can bring up the slide here. So the North Side Independent Neighborhood Association will be meeting this coming Tuesday, February 25th at 6 p.m. right here, 4101 West Florissant. And this is a neighborhood association unlike others that you may have experienced living here in St. Louis. This meeting is going to be open to everyone. And we're going to have a full agenda. And just to give you an idea of some of the agenda items we'll be talking about, we're going to be talking about some of the campaigns that were adopted, such as, for example, ICL, which is the Israeli Chemicals Limited. And they want to basically, have this facility, this toxic facility here in St. Louis. And people want to make sure that it doesn't happen because a lot of it uses white phosphorus and other harmful chemicals that get into the water system. That's just one example. And another one we'll be talking about the victory that Uhuru Bakery Cafe had at the last appeal hearing where they overturned the permit, the denial of the permit. That's just to give you an example of some of the agenda items. Of course, we're going to have other items on board that's going to be critical. We really want to call on people to become a member. Right now for 2025, it is free to be a member, but in 2026, it will be a charge. I believe it's going to be $25 for the whole year to be a member. But right now for 2025, it's free to be a member, but we want people to be able to sign up to be a member of this neighborhood association. Now, we will be, meeting later on in the future in College Hill, but it's more than just about College Hill. All the neighborhoods within the north side are included in this as well. Because again, we don't want to have these little, as the term has been said, fiefdoms, a little piece here and a little piece there, doing this and doing that. We all have the same concerns. We all have the same concerns about all these abandoned buildings around here and all these abandoned lots. And the fact that there's so much poverty in this community. There's the fact that there's so many Black businesses that are barely hanging on because the city is still holding on to monies that they need to survive. So, we want people to really be a part of this whole process. And if you want to get more information, you can go to ninastl.org. You can also email at info@ninastl.org. You can email us as well. But we want people to show up on the 26th at 6 p.m. right here. We want to get this agenda out to everybody. And we want, let me get a show of hands. Who's going to be coming to the meeting? I see 2 hands, 3, 4, right on. It looks like the majority of people are going to be here. So right on. Invite people to come through. Invite people to come through. The more people we have, the more people can sign up and become members of this. Because again, it's important that we overturn a lot of the struggles that we had, through the Uhuru Bakery Cafe. We want to eliminate all that headache that people go through to try to open up a business. And that's what it's about. It's about bringing commerce back to this community, bringing life back into this community. So I just wanted to put that out to everybody, and I hope to see everybody soon. Uhuru.
Hey,
One thing.
the brother that was with.
Oh, yeah.
I was asking, is there a neighborhood requirement, or do you have to live within a certain parameter?
This encompasses all the different neighborhoods in the north side. So if you live in Penrose or Hyde Park or College Hill or O'Fallon or Fairground, yes. I just wanted to say one other thing too. I didn't get a chance to say it last week. I really want to thank everybody that participated in outreach to really, inform the community about what's going on and invite the community to be a part of the whole appeal process. And for example, brother Gregory, want to appreciate you for hanging with me and going door to door, talking with people. Other people that I don't see here today, but I just want to thank people that did participate, because it's important that we be out in the community. Community needs to know what's going on. They need to feel like, somebody gives a damn about, the community. Because so many times, and I've heard it so many times before, we've had people come in and say this and say that, and then they're gone. We're still here. We need to let the community know that we're still here, and you can also be a part of this process as well. So I just wanted to say that. Uhuru.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on this neighborhood association. I think it's an extremely important thing. The question, what has happened is our people have been driven out of political life. And we have to rescue ourselves. We have to re-engage. A neighborhood association has to be more than just a place where the police comes and sits with us and try to turn the community into snitches, and where more than just a place where African petty bourgeoisie wannabe politicians come to hang out because they know they're going to be able to get a vote. It's really important to revitalize our community and let the community participate. And for example, I don't know what kind of neighborhood associations are taking on stuff like even just getting the garbage, from these alleys that we live in our community, and just, basic stuff. I mean, what kind of screaming was done in a collective fashion around the unwillingness or inability of the government to just get ice, out of our streets, et cetera. I mean, the neighborhood association has to be dynamic, and it has to recognize that it is engaged in a political struggle. It's more than just bad service. It's who's got the political power. And the neighborhood associations have to also reflect the power of the people. So I really appreciate what we're trying to do here, with really developing a powerful neighborhood association, a real neighborhood association, and not an association that serves the interests of the people who run this city.
Uhuru. So next and furthermore, with our announcements, as the slides are on the screen, we have the Black is Black Coalition 9th annual electoral. Well, that ain't with my script. Lynn just left. Oh, well, he just left. But this one right here, this is White Solidarity. This is the African People's Solidarity Committee. They're going to have their what is this event? It's not just Trump, it's the whole damn system. Be part of changing the world under the leadership of the African Liberation Movement. That's Wednesday, February 26th this year. It's going to be 6:30 Central Time, and it's going to be in person and online. It's going to be a political discussion, and it's going to be at the Uhuru Solidarity Center, and that's located on 2654 Gravois Avenue. And at the bottom, you can register for that event, apsc.uhuru.org//register.
Is that still happening there? I understand there was some work being done at the Solidarity Center.
Well,
It's still going to be there.
oh, we don't yet, but it either it'll be there or it'll just be on the city hall. Get back.
So stay tuned for further details, but for sure it will be virtual. Okay. Well, anyway. So did someone from Solidarity want to come up and come on, make this happen.
Just want to invite everyone to the Uhuru Solidarity Movement's National Convention, which is going to be March 15th and 16th. Uhuru Solidarity is an organization that was formed by the African People's Socialist Party. And what we do is we work under their leadership, go into the white community, and win other white people like ourselves to support reparations and the economic development work the party is leading. So I encourage all of you to go. I know Carol, I believe you were there last year. It's going to be here in this building. So that is, again, March 15th and 16th, Saturday and Sunday, and you can register at tinyurl.com/USN convention. And we're going to hear from Chairman Amali Shatella, as well as other movement leaders and also the leaders of the Uhuru Solidarity. So
There we go. All right. Say,
On that,
could you, if you got a question, come up to the mic so we can hear you.
statement, I sent off several of the flyers to white friends, associates, that I worked with in the past, and most of them had a very positive response. Oh, it's nice to know that's going on. Had a few though that had comments like, "Oh, that's ridiculous." And it was interesting to me, and I guess I'm reaching out to the committee for additional information to send to those folks. I mean, it's like they don't see what this government is doing to Ukraine now, who is supposed to be a friend, and yet now they want to suck, this is an opportunity for them to suck minerals out of Ukraine. So it's a system here that we're in battle with, and all of us are in that battle. So if you have any additional information that you can send off and give me, that I can send off to some of these folks who are not seeing the world as it is, I'd be appreciative.
Uhuru. Thank you. We come to them. So next is the Black is Back Coalition 9th Annual Electoral Campaign School. The ballot and the bullet, not one day, not one dime, no compromise, no surrender. That's going to be April the 12th through the 13th, 2025 here at Aquabo Hall, located 4101 West Florissant. That's here in St. Louis, 63115. You can also go to the website and register at blackisbackcoalition.org. Is that an ammo thing? Did you have something for ammo?
Yeah, I was gonna do that. I didn't know if you wanted to finish up the rest of your announcement.
And next we have the Burning Spear. You want to order your Burning Spear right here today. I got a fresh copy. This is this month right here. You can go to the Burning Spear, order online. You go to burningspear.com/subscribe. You can also go to the burningspear.com store and pick up your bundle of the Burning Spear today. And also every Thursday, talking about learning more. If you want to learn a little bit more about Impedum, come and join us for the Revolutionary Democratic National Program study, 7 o'clock Central. It's hosted by the international president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, President Dr. Matamela Odom. As on the board, you can also view it on Facebook, and you can go to tinyurl.com/RNDP studies. And the next announcement.
Okay, so after you come to the studies, we also need help to build the rallies. We need to help to grow bigger and better, because the information that we have and the information like we received today needs to be shared with the community, because a lot of times people are just unaware and they don't really know where to get their political information. So these rallies are one way that people can get the information that they need, because a lot of times people are just dealing with things on their own and just kind of looking at the plight, not feeling like there's anything that they can do about it. So once they realize and understand what we're working towards, these rallies can help build that momentum for the community to start fighting back for the things that they know that they're lacking, but they just don't feel like there's any way to do anything about. So now that we're here, we need to get out to the community, let them know. If you know people that need this information, have them come out. Even if you want to watch it online, just starting out, but then eventually coming in, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So notify people. If you're watching online, make sure you're sharing it with other people and spreading the word. And then the other organization that we're looking to build is our African National Women's Organization. We're trying to get that organization up and running so that we can begin to address the needs that women in St. Louis within this area are facing, developing whatever programs are needed and different things like that. And also our markets are going to be starting up again in this coming June. So if you have things that if you have items that you like to sell, handcrafts, or a lot of people bring like the moss juices and different things, or if you want to advertise for your nonprofit or any type of business that you have, we have affordable rates for our booths down at the O'Fallon Park, where we have our market. You can come out for that and make sure you're registered. I believe you can find us on Eventbrite. One Africa, you can also go to One Africa, One Nation. You can actually just do a search for One Africa, One Nation Farmers Market and then get registered there. Come out. We need to We need people to spread the word about the market so that we can grow bigger and better and be able to provide things that the community needs. We want to bring everything to this north side and be able to give them the things that they need, have it available for them, whether it's the programs for the children, programs for the adults, whether it is food supplies and different things like that that they need, or even decorations for their homes. And then I think that is it for the announcements. You want to check out the annual ANWOUHURU.com for more information about ANWO. You can join for as little as $10 for the full year and get your membership there for ANWO. And then that leads us to Caramel, correct?
Yeah.
Caramel today are turkey sandwiches, sloppy joes, and burgers with fries. So we'll invite you all back shortly, but we want to kind of find out, get input from, or not input, but we want people to participate, and next week we'll have salads. So it'll be the leaf salads as well as pasta, tuna, whatever's your favorite salad. So do we have any volunteers who want to bring salads for next week? Anybody that can bring that, as well as sides and condiments that can go along with that. I'll volunteer to bring the green leaf salad and a bottle of dressing. Mind you, most of my stuff is usually not vegan or vegetarian, so.
I'll do chicken salad.
Okay, we got a king A for chicken salad.
Sure, because it's like what?
Oh, somebody, I don't know who was, bought a, it was just a mixture of vegetables and vinegar and all. I don't know who brought that salad, but it was, I had to talk about it, because it was good. I wanted, it was somebody in solidarity brought that. I want y'all to let me know who did that, so I can get in the call. Okay? Okay.
See how he got his hand.
See, Ally?
Okay, what kind of set you got coming?
I will bring some balsamic vinaigrette.
Okay.
It is famous
Okay.
to the pot of pecan. Oh, no. What kind of salad he got?
Balsamic vinaigrette.
Never had that one.
You bringing the salad or just the dressing? Okay.
Okay, yeah.
We need tomatoes or cucumbers or carrots.
Whatever toppings people like to have on their salads.
Cheddar cheese.
There's a hand back there.
Yeah, I got Marie. Wild rice salad?
Wow.
Whatever,
wow.
yeah. I'm gonna just say yes.
There's
And
spinach.
if you're not good with salad, would you? I can bring vegan potato salad. All
Oh,
right.
there we go.
Then I'll bring the meat for that bigger salad.
Okay, and besides that, we'll need, if you don't do it, bring a salad, you can bring water, you can bring tea, you can bring cookies. No hands?
I'll bring the tea and
Water,
water.
okay,
All
syrup, I mean, spring,
Spring.
okay, okay, so I can bring cookies.
Okay.
Or pie. Ah,
I'll try an Asian noodle salad.
Oh, okay.
You're international with it.
At least we got some salad for you, Chairman. I just need the full Chairman now.
okay, anybody else?
Yes.
All right, Rabbit's gotta eat too.
Yes.
They the first vegetarian.
Okay. you bring
Okay, so it
water.
sounds like we have a meal for next week.
All right, great. Uhuru.
And
Yeah.
if anybody ever has any suggestions on what they would like for one of the weeks, you can always let us know. But we'll come up and or either we'll just come up with it for you. Thank you. Turn it back over to you.
Thank you, everybody.
Uhuru, yeah, thank you. Want to appreciate that. Just before we go here, there are other areas of work that needs to be done. For example, if you see us at the back of the table, one of us and impede them, we need phone bankers. We need people to call to get other people to come out to these events. Your people that you know, and we got a list for that. So please let us know if you're interested in doing that. We also need someone to help with AV support from time to time. If you have the skills, like you told us, you got your particular skills, we should be able to utilize that. If there are other skills that are in the audience that we can use to help build these rallies, greatly appreciated. Okay, comrades, we want to thank you and appreciate everyone for coming out. We are at the end of our program. We have our Caramoo in the back to the right. So we'll be back here next week at 3 to 5 p.m. We're located at 4101 West Florissant on the corner of West Florissant and Alice. And you can also catch us online and streaming. Uhuru, enjoy. Thank you once again.